Good evening, Florida, and welcome to Coastal Conservative News, where truth has a backbone and freedom still has a home.
We're bringing you the bold stories and the real headlines and the voices that matter most, right here from the heart of the free state of Florida, from Tallahassee to the Sun Coast.
We're tracking the political shifts, community victories, and constitutional battles shaping the future of our state and our great nation.
So buckle up, it's time to get informed, get fired up, and get involved.
This is CCN, Coastal Conservative News.
Welcome back to Coastal Conservative News. We're really glad you're here because this is one of those weeks where slowing down and understanding what's happening actually makes a difference.
Yeah, we're going to walk through the stories that touch real life in Florida, from how local governments are spending your tax dollars to legislation that affects parents' rights and medical decisions, to how communities come together through traditions like Gasparilla.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We'll also take a closer look at Florida's DOJ accountability efforts, what they're finding, and why that matters whether you own a home, rent, or run a small business.
And yes, we'll wrap with sports because Florida teams are telling some interesting stories right now about leadership, resilience, and culture.
This isn't about talking at you. It's about giving you the context you don't usually get, so you can connect the dots yourself.
Yeah, so grab a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and let's take this week from the headlines straight to your kitchen table. This is CCN. Let's get into it. All right, this week, Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier announced a statewide expansion of Bexley boxes. I didn't even know what these were.
I didn't either.
That we had them. This is amazing.
I was researching. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cute.
This is amazing. These are comfort kits
Yeah.
for children who have experienced violent crime scenes. At face value, it sounds really simple, a box with toys or calming items.
But here is the deeper context. Children who witness violence experience neurological stress responses similar to soldiers in combat. Their brains are flooded with cortisol and adrenaline during and immediately after the event.
Yeah, if those first moments are chaotic, cold, or dismissive, that stress response can hardwire itself into long-term trauma.
Oh, so sad. Law enforcement officers are often the first adults children interact with after a violent event. Not counselors, not family, not friends, police.
Yeah, Bexley boxes are not about replacing parents or therapy. They're about stabilizing a child in that most fragile window possible. That's pretty exciting.
So important.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Gasparilla across Tampa Bay this week. Gasparilla season is underway, and this is one of those uniquely Florida traditions. I know when I first moved to Florida, I was like, what?
Gasparilla?
What
is
are
that?
Are we in the Pirates of the Caribbean? Florida traditions that really deserves a little context. Gasparilla is not just a parade or a party. It has been part of Tampa's identity for more than a century, dating back to the early 1900s when local civic leaders created it as a way to bring the community together and put Tampa on the map.
And over the years, it has grown into something much bigger than pirates and beards. Gasparilla has become a shared experience across generations. Parents who grew up going to these and now bringing their kids, grandparents tell stories about how it used to be, and that kind of continuity matters in a fast-growing state like Florida.
Passing down the traditions, right? And we know we've got a lot of new people to Florida, so you're get out your pen and paper. You're gonna have to take some notes on why we do this here. For families, Gasparilla offers something that is actually harder to find than it sounds: a large public outdoor event that is genuinely fun for all ages. There are kid-friendly parades, daytime events, community festivals, and spaces designed specifically for families who want the experience without the late-night party atmosphere, because there is that late-night party atmosphere.
There is, for sure. And now at the kitchen table, families are planning ahead. What day works best, which events are better for younger kids, where to park, what time to go, so everyone has fun and goes home happy. That planning is part of the experience. It turns an event into a memory.
Yeah, Gasparilla is also a huge win for local businesses. Restaurants, hotels, vendors, rideshare drivers, retail shops, and small businesses see a real boost during this season. For many local business owners, Gasparilla weekend can make the difference between a strong quarter and a slow one. It's kind of like the holidays.
And that matters because when small businesses thrive, communities thrive. These dollars circulate locally, and they support jobs, sponsorships, and future community events.
Yeah, there's also something important behind the scenes. Events like Gasparilla require coordination between city leadership, law enforcement, emergency services, volunteers. It takes a ton of people to pull this off, and even organizers. When it works well, people barely notice. They just feel safe and supported. So we're hoping that continues.
And that is actually a good sign of governance. The best run events are the ones where families feel comfortable bringing their kids, businesses feel supported, and the community feels proud.
Yeah, at its best, Gasparilla reminds us that culture is not just politics or policy. It's shared traditions, local pride, and moments where people step away from the daily grind and enjoy life together. Everybody needs to get out. You enjoy the fresh air. It's going to be great, great weather, and maybe put our screens down.
Oh, for
as I
sure.
move my phone out of the way.
Unless you're taking photos, because those last for a lifetime.
Yes.
Don't forget to print them out. Don't leave them in your phone.
Yes.
And in a state growing as fast as Florida, those shared moments matter more than ever.
Absolutely.
All right, shifting gears a little bit. Florida's Department of Health released testing results, get this, showing arsenic detected in 28 of 46 candy products tested.
Is this, we need to know this coming up on Easter, because think about it, like the Easter Bunny's trying to poison our kids now. What is going on? Here's the nuance.
Don't blame the Easter Bunny. That's definitely the FDA.
I know. Here's the nuance missing from viral headlines. Arsenic occurs naturally in soil and water. The issue is accumulation and exposure over time. And I would imagine how long they sit on the shelf.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
Children
are uniquely vulnerable because their bodies are still developing. Small exposures repeated over years can create long-term health risks. Now, we're not saying that the naturally occurring one is what's currently in these. Sometimes it could be actual arsenic, like the chemical. So
wow. And at the kitchen table, guys, parents are not asking for zero risk. They are asking for transparency so they can make informed choices.
This testing shifts power away from marketing departments and back to families.
Yeah, it also creates market pressure. When consumers know, manufacturers change behavior faster than when regulators issue warnings. So
that's for sure.
Southwest Florida is now under 1 day per week watering restrictions due to severe drought. Wow, we're not in California.
You don't water the gremlins, though. Water policy often feels abstract until it shows up as fines, HOA violations, or declining property value.
Yeah, at the kitchen table, families are weighing landscaping costs, potential penalties, and future water rate increases. No, say it isn't so.
This is not about ideology. It is about managing finite resources in a growing state.
That's right, and we are growing. All right, moving on to sports. Let's start with the Florida Panthers. This past stretch showed a team that is competitive every night, even when the outcomes don't go all their way. The Panthers did beat the Minnesota Wild 4-3 on January 24th earlier in the week, and followed that up with a strong 5-1 win over the Chicago Blackhawks, ouch, on January 25th. You know, I gotta report that. I like what you did there, ma'am.
Those wins.
She's like, Chicago Bears, Chicago Bears, Chicago.
Those wins were driven by discipline, defense, play, and smart puck control. What? Especially in high pressure moments. The Panthers then dropped a close one to Utah 4-3 on January 27th. That loss exposed some late game vulnerabilities, but it was also the kind of game that shows where adjustments can be made rather than systematic problems.
Yeah, and at your kitchen table today, guys, fans see a team that responds to adversity with structure instead of panic, which is exactly how winning cultures are built. That's a sign of good leadership, probably from management down to coaching. That's
Absolutely.
Pretty awesome.
Now Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning had a stretch that really highlighted veteran leadership. There we go, talking about leadership.
Okay, you know, I said it. I said it.
Tampa Bay, champs.
Go
okay, Tampa Bay beat the San Jose Sharks 4-1 on January 20th and edged out the Chicago Blackhawks 2-1 on January 23rd. Take that.
I quit. Then came the stumble, a tough 8-5 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets on January 24th, where defensive breakdowns were impossible to ignore. Listen, go big defense.
Okay, whatever. But what matters is the response.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay bounced back with a 2-0 shutout win against Utah on January 26th.
Yeah, that bounce back tells you a lot. Veteran teams don't usually spiral. They correct. They refocus. they move forward, and that's the key.
That's
really.
why we love Tampa Bay Lightning.
We do. Okay. And the Orlando Magic, guys, shifting to basketball, they continue to show flashes of growth, but youth still shows up in key moments. The Magic fell to the Cleveland Cavaliers 114-98 on January 26th, a game where turnovers and late game execution really made the difference, Allie.
Sounds like everybody needs to get on those Judah ones. Just saying.
Sponsored by.
All right, that loss set the stage for a Florida matchup with the Miami Heat on January 28th, a game that tests not just talent, but composure.
Yeah, guys, at your kitchen table, at your dining room table today, Magic fans are watching a team mature in real time. Progress isn't always pretty, but it is happening. And I love that this sets actually a really good example for those coming up in all of the youth leagues, right? If you don't see success right away, but you keep showing up and doing your best, I mean, I think that's a good example.
And if you're looking for the Judah ones, you can go to unitas.com and find those shoes. Just saying. They're great. I love them. They're amazing. They're so comfy.
Oh,
might improve your game. Just saying. So the Miami Heat wrapped up a long West Coast road stretch that showed both depth and gaps. Yeah. The Heat lost to the Golden State Warriors 135-112 on January 19th, but rebounded with a 130-117 win over the Sacramento Kings on January 20th.
Yeah, unfortunately, they had to leave Florida for the commie state of California.
I'm so sorry.
They then dropped games to Portland, 127-110 on January 22nd, before delivering a dominant 147-116 win against Utah on January 24th, and followed it up most recently with a solid, this was a close one, 111-102 win over Phoenix on January 25th.
Those scores tell a story. When the Heat control tempo and play within their system, they can overwhelm teams. When defensive discipline slips, they pay for it.
That's true on every sport, I think. Hosting the Magic on January 28th and heading into a series with the Chicago Bulls, this stretch is about tightening rotations and consistency, not star power.
Oh, my goodness. All right, now at the kitchen table, sports matter because they reflect values.
Yeah.
Floridians recognize discipline, accountability, preparation, response to adversity.
Yeah, it's life lessons through sports, really. And Florida teams right now are showing something fans appreciate. They're competing, they're adjusting and building, not just coasting through. It's making it a really exciting postseason.
And that's definitely a story worth watching. I wonder what your bracket looks like. Okay, now that's your week in review. When we come back, we're taking it local with your Suncoast community with stories, people, and events from right here along the Gulf Coast. We'll be right back.
From the heart of Marietta, Georgia, comes a tribute to the spirit of liberty. Liberty Cigars, where history meets craftsmanship. Each cigar tells a story. The Founders Collection honors the visionaries who shaped a nation. The President's House Collection celebrates the leaders who steered it. And the Naval Series salutes the heroes who defended it. Handcrafted with precision, each blend mirrors the essence of its namesake. From the boldness of George Washington to the elegance of Thomas Jefferson. Indulge in a moment of reflection. Light a Liberty cigar and savor the legacy. Discover your story at libertycigars.com because every great nation deserves a great cigar. Liberty Cigars, smoke the history. And don't forget to use promo code OPENMIC for 10% off your order.
All right, as we come back, we want to capture the story, the hearts of the Suncoast. So let's get into it.
Yeah, across our communities this week, local families and churches and volunteer groups are stepping up to support foster children and first responders in some really meaningful ways, Allie.
Oh, so heartwarming. From collecting backpacks and school supplies for foster kids to organizing meals and care packages for law enforcement and firefighters, these are efforts that don't make big headlines, but make a huge difference.
Yeah, not many people are telling this story, Allie, but foster children often enter care with very little, no personal belongings, no sense of stability, and these communities, the community drives help restore dignity and remind these kids that they're seen and that they're valued.
And that is so important. Yeah. At the same time, first responders across the Suncoast are being reminded that their communities have their backs. A warm meal, a handwritten note, or a simple thank you goes a long way. We know because we did the same thing.
That's right.
During this week.
To law enforcement, yeah. And right into your family, right into your living room. This is what community looks like. Families choosing to give, kids learning the value of service, neighbors showing up for neighbors. Old school.
It's easy to feel like everything is divided or heavy right now, but stories like this remind us that the foundation of our communities is still very strong.
Yeah, and here on the Suncoast, that spirit of generosity is alive and well. That's why we love the free state of Florida.
All right, when we come back, we'll shift from local impact and statewide and national decision making with Political Pulse. We'll be right back with more CCN.
They call masculinity toxic, but the truth is, God calls it sacred. My name is Camden Bettinghouse, and I've seen how the world takes what God meant for us as men and turn it into this thing called toxic masculinity. I wrote Fearless Masculinity because my generation's been lied to. You know, we've been told to sit down, stay quiet, and apologize for being men. This world doesn't need weaker men. It needs men who are willing to stand up and become fearless. Men who protect their families, serve their communities, and live without fear. Fearless Masculinity is a roadmap to discover who God truly made you to be as a man. It's about rediscovering purpose, building courage, and stepping into who God truly calls you to be. If you're tired of being called toxic just for being a man, and you're tired of shrinking back, tired of silence, this book is for you. Are you ready to step up? If you are, go to CamdenBettinghouse.com to get more information and become a fearless man of God.
Welcome back to CCN. Tonight on Political Pulse, Florida lawmakers quietly file election integrity bills. That could reshape how voter registration works statewide.
Yeah, plus Governor DeSantis signals once again that he's willing to use executive authority, including special sessions, to force action instead of waiting on sometimes a slow-moving legislator.
And courts are increasingly stepping in as de facto policymakers, blocking or reshaping laws voters never got a chance to weigh in on.
Yeah, those stories and what they mean are for who actually governs Florida start right now, Allie.
This week, Governor Ron DeSantis addressed Florida sheriffs from across the state, and this was more than a ceremonial stop. It was about reinforcing how Florida is choosing to govern at a time when many states are struggling with confusion over authority.
Yeah, at the core of the governor's message was coordination, making sure local law enforcement, state agencies, and when necessary, federal partners clearly understand their roles and are not working at cross purposes. That may sound obvious, but nationally it hasn't always been, so he's just clarifying.
Absolutely. Now, we've seen what happens when coordination breaks down, right? Cities where police are unsure what they're allowed to enforce, which I'm confused at how that even works. States where local governments openly contradict state law, and criminals exploiting that confusion. Florida's approach has been the opposite. Clarity first.
And that's see
important.
Nationally, you can see such a difference in this. If you look at how California, their governor has failed to lead and how that left them really strapped after the fires, in contrast to how DeSantis has handled many of our hurricane seasons. Then you look at Minnesota and how Governor Walz cannot get that under control. He can't let law enforcement do their job. Counter that with how DeSantis has really led. The governor made it clear Florida will not operate as a patchwork of policies depending on the city or county. You don't get to make your own rules. The expectation is consistent enforcement of state law, especially when it comes to public safety and immigration.
Yes. And at your kitchen table, that consistency matters more than politics. Families want to know the rules don't change when they cross a county line and that law enforcement has clear backing.
Yeah, another key piece is resources. Florida hasn't just issued directives, it has backed them with funding, training, and legal guidance so local agencies aren't left guessing or exposed to liability.
That's a major difference from states that announce policies that leave local governments to absorb the fallout. If the state expects enforcement, the state supports enforcement.
Well, and look at what they're doing with DOJ here, Allie. They're looking out for taxpayers, unlike in Minnesota, where the fraud has largely been allowed by Governor Tim Walz. So we're grateful to be here. The governor also tied this into a broader theme we've seen repeatedly. State leadership stepping in where federal systems are sometimes unclear. I mean, that's why we have state sovereignty.
Right, and that translates to predictability. Predictability in law enforcement, public safety, and how laws are applied are important, and they matter to all families of Florida.
That's right. Critics argue this centralizes power, But supporters argue clear authority prevents chaos, and we see that right here in Florida better than anywhere else. That debate continues, but the direction is not ambiguous.
And that is important. Florida is choosing uniform enforcement, clear lines of responsibility, and active state leadership.
For families and communities, that clarity can be the difference between stability and uncertainty, and no family wants to constantly live in uncertainty.
All right, you guys, at your kitchen table, families will see this week's or months later sleep problems, anxiety, acting out, trouble concentrating in schools. Sounds like an infomercial. I'm sorry.
This initiative acknowledges reality instead of pretending trauma starts later. It starts immediately.
Right. Also this week, the Attorney General's office announced arrests tied to Medicaid fraud involving false transportation billing.
Here's the context missing from most coverage that you're going to see elsewhere. Medicaid is one of the largest line items in Florida's budget. It competes with education, infrastructure, and public safety for funding. Again, getting the federal dollars, but your state is required to determine how that's going to be given out.
That's correct. And when fraud drains Medicaid, lawmakers respond in predictable ways. They tighten eligibility. They reduce reimbursements. Providers stop accepting patients.
So the people who get hurt are not the fraudsters, really.
Right.
They're elderly patients, disabled individuals, and low-income families who suddenly cannot find care.
Now, how this hits you at your kitchen table is this means longer wait times, fewer providers, and more paperwork just to stay covered.
Yeah, fraud enforcement is not about punishment, although that's probably one of the outcomes,
it's accountability.
right? It is about preserving access for those who actually depend on the system, and that's one thing that Minnesota has gotten wrong.
For sure. Now switching gears a little to legislative and judicial updates. House Bill 245 recently passed the Health and Human Services Committee and is now headed to the Judiciary Committee. The bill does something specific and symbolic. It replaces every instance of the term child pornography in Florida statute with child sexual abuse material. We need to call out what it is.
That's
Supporters say this matters because the term pornography implies consent and normalizes what is actually abuse. By changing the language, they argue the law better reflects reality and reinforces the gravity of these crimes.
And really what they're going through is, Allie and I were at this subcommittee hearing when it went through the education subcommittee, and it's amazing how many people want to keep that blurred line there. So making this more clear, Allie, it's going to protect our children.
Absolutely. Now, opponents of similar changes in other states have argued the word swap could open the door for unintended legal interruption or interpretations. But in Florida's case, this bill passed committee unanimously, showing bipartisan agreement on the need for precise abuse-focused terminology. Now, how this hits you in your family is it will show up and shape how our courts, schools, and even parents talk about the crime. Language matters because it influences how seriously we treat wrongdoing against our children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, HB 173, expanding parental rights in children's health care and school activities.
This is a big one. House Bill 173, another bill moving through the House Health and Human Services Committee, passed that committee 19-7. I'd like to know who these 7 are. This bill is designed to restore and expand the foundational role of you, parents, in their children's lives. Whoever thought we would have to declare this? It's crazy, especially when it comes, Allie, to medical care, the records access, mental health counseling, and the use of biofeedback devices or surveys in schools. Now, supporters say this is a necessary correction. Right now, Florida statutes allow physicians to treat minors for sexually transmitted infections, mental health conditions, or substance issues without even letting parents know or getting parental consent. HB 173 would tighten that and require parents to be notified and involved in critical decisions. Now, some sponsors argue that parents are the best advocates for their children, obviously, and should not be sidelined by schools or healthcare providers. They also want parents to receive copies of any health or mental health questionnaires before kids fill them out, instead of only finding out after the fact. Of course, there's always an opponent to something that's really good. Opponents, including several Democrats on the committee, shocker, counter that some minors are already in situations where parental involvement may not be safe or appropriate, and that restricting access could keep teens from seeking help. Those objections were reflected in the 7 votes against the bill in committee. And it makes you wonder because healthcare officials are already mandated reporters.
Exactly.
So if they're doing their job effectively, I mean, if they're not, let's talk about that. But if they're doing their job effectively, that should cover those in abusive situations.
And there is an option for teenagers at a certain age. We do have the emancipation. So if you are a child and you want to live like an adult, you have that option.
Sure.
You can file your emancipation paperwork and go through that process. But what we can't do is we can't perpetuate abuse in homes, treating children with certain illnesses or sexually transmitted diseases, and then bringing them back into their abusive homes without reporting the crime. So,
right. And Allie, we don't ever in this country legislate on the minority.
Right.
So there you go. At the kitchen table for you guys watching, this debate boils down to really to a real question many Florida families wrestle with. Who gets the final say in a child's health care and well-being, the parent or the system? That's not a discussion we're having.
Definitely not, because parental rights are fundamental.
Absolutely.
End of story, full stop. Both bills passed their committee tests, but still have more steps ahead before becoming law. As they move forward, we'll keep you updated on how these debates play out and what they mean for you and your family.
Absolutely.
All right, as we move on, there are a few education developments this week that Floridians really should be aware of because they reflect where education policy in the state is headed and how much control parents actually have.
Yeah, this week marked National School Choice Week, and Florida once again found itself at the center of that conversation, not because of slogans, but because Florida now offers more education options to families than any other state in the country. Parents across Florida are choosing from traditional public schools, charter schools, private schools, homeschool options, virtual learning, and education savings accounts that allow funding to follow the child, not institutions.
Right. How this affects your family is that families are no longer stuck in a one-size-fits-all system.
Yeah.
If a child isn't thriving academically, socially, or emotionally, parents have real alternatives instead of being told to wait it out.
Yeah, that said, with more choice comes more responsibility. I feel like that's a slogan from Spider-Man.
Somewhere.
This week, lawmakers also discussed fixes to how scholarship and voucher programs are administered after audits showed delays and confusion that left some families without timely funding. I think when something hits and it's this big and this large, of course, you're going to have fixes.
Of course. From families relying on those funds for tuition, tutoring, or homeschooling materials, reliability matters just as much as access. School choice only works if the system actually delivers when families need it, and they're working on it.
Absolutely. Another education issue gaining attention this week is higher education hiring. Florida's Board of Governors is debating a pause on certain foreign work visas at public universities. Supporters say this is about prioritizing American workers and reducing dependency on foreign labor, especially for jobs like swim coach that we could probably fill here locally, right?
Yeah.
Critics, however, argue it could affect research programs, innovation, and classroom instruction.
I disagree.
Vehemently.
Now, how this shows up at your kitchen table may be differently depending on where you live. Universities are major employers and economic drivers, and changes in hiring policy can affect local jobs, research funding, and opportunities for students entering STEM fields.
Right. The bigger picture here is this, guys. Florida continues to move toward parental authority and accountability in education from kindergarten all the way through college. So, and we believe in Florida first in everything we do. So why not hire Florida first?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Now, moving on a little bit, let's zoom out because what happens in Washington and abroad still affects Florida families more than people realize.
Yeah, this week the federal government announced a major review of U.S. foreign aid programs to ensure they align with new restrictions involving abortion funding, gender ideology,
yeah, we're still talking about it.
And DEI initiatives. Didn't earn it. Billions of dollars in aid are affected, and it does affect us here in Florida.
Now, at first glance, that sounds far removed from daily life in Florida. You know, the beach and the sunshine, although it's been pretty cold here.
Yes.
But Florida has one of the largest immigrant populations in the country, strong ties to Latin America and the Caribbean, and large military and veteran communities.
Yeah.
Foreign policy decisions shape international stability, migration patterns, and economic relationships that directly impact Florida ports, tourism, and trade.
Another major development this week was a temporary funding deal in Washington to avoid a partial government shutdown, specifically around funding for the Department of Homeland Security. I think they're just really upset that Kristi Noem is so effective. Immigration enforcement and border policy were central to that debate. Of course, I think the Democrats would look for any reason to try to shut down the government under Trump.
I just think they're just triggered by a strong woman who actually knows what she's doing. Okay, now for Florida, this matters because federal immigration policy directly affects local law enforcement coordination, school enrollment, workforce participation, and public services. When Washington punts decisions with short-term funding, states are left managing long-term consequences. But that's really where it should be anyway.
Listen, we saw that with COVID funds. I mean, look at how bad school districts are trying to get their budgets under control because they gave us a ton of money through COVID funds. We're also seeing increased national protest tied to immigration enforcement.
They are not protests. Let's call them riots.
With demonstrations planned across the country. We said this in our other show. Guys, it's amazing. Democrats have been in power, I think over the last couple decades, 16 years. None of them ever took up immigration policies or changing them, and now they're going to burn cities because they don't like what's happening. While these national movements are going on nationally, Florida often feels the ripple effects quickly because immigration policy is already a central issue here, Allie.
Right. Now, at the kitchen table, national policy becomes local when schools adjust enrollment, employers face workforce shortages, or communities deal with public safety concerns tied to enforcement uncertainty.
Right. The takeaway here, guys, for Floridians this week is this. Education and national policy are not abstract debates. They shape real decisions families are making right now about schools, jobs, housing, and community stability.
That's why we don't just report what happened. We explain how it works and why it matters to you.
That's right. Moving on to Doge. I feel like we need to have a theme song for Doge.
I know, right?
It's pretty cool. We'll work on it.
Or like a little Doge dog with an alligator sitting on top of an alligator. We'll figure it out.
We'll get it working. Let's spend a few minutes on Florida's Doge initiative, guys, because this is one of those stories that sounds technical, but actually hits families directly in their wallets. Doge means Department of Government Efficiency, obviously. It was launched under Ron DeSantis with a simple mission here in Florida. Look at how local governments are spending taxpayer money and ask a basic question. Is this spending necessary, or has government grown because no one was watching closely? Pretty simple.
Right. Now, that distinction matters when government spending grows faster than population and inflation. The extra money does not come from nowhere.
Yeah.
It comes from property taxes, fees, and higher costs families absorb month after month.
Yeah.
Doge is not targeting police, fire, or emergency services. Those are core functions.
Yes.
What it is examining is administrative growth and expanded programs that do not clearly track with essential services.
Yeah, this week, Florida CFO Blaise Ingoglia announced Doge identified more than $49 million in what his office calls excessive or unnecessary spending in the city of St. Petersburg's general fund. To put that in context, guys, the city's budget has grown rapidly over the past several years for outpacing population growth.
Now, at your kitchen table level, this matters because higher city budgets almost always mean higher property taxes or higher rents.
Right.
Even families who do not own homes feel it because landlords pass those costs down. When budgets grow without clear justification, families pay the difference.
Yeah, supporters of Doge say that this is the accountability taxpayers have been asking for. Someone finally running the numbers and asking why spending keeps increasing while families tighten their own budgets. But critics, because there always are a few, argue Doge oversimplifies local needs and does not always account for community priorities.
And that tension matters. This is not about claiming every dollar spent is wasteful. It is about forcing transparency and asking whether residents are getting real value for what they're paying.
Yeah, Doge has also triggered local responses. I mean, in places like Manatee County, officials have requested full audit details so they can review the findings and decide what changes, if any, should follow. That back and forth is the point. That's how government's supposed to work.
Absolutely. Now, at your kitchen table, it comes down to a simple question. When government revenue increases, should families see relief, or should government automatically expand? Doge is pushing that question into the open.
And whether people agree with every finding or not, one thing is clear. Floridians are paying closer attention to where their money goes. And that kind of accountability, when done right, builds trust instead of eroding it.
And you are not going to hear that on any other network.
No.
Just saying. Well, guys, that's it for your political pulse.
When we come back, Camden Bettinghouse brings us Cam in the Moment. So stay tuned. Hi. Hello, how are you?
We are here to get an IV.
An IV. I heard you have an IV room?
Yeah, absolutely. You just head right back this way.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Knock, knock. Hello. Hi, I'm Michelle.
I'm Sarah.
Sarah, this
Hi,
is
Allie. Nice to see you.
How can I help you?
We're stressed. We're moms. We've got multitasking going on. I feel like I fall victim to like a brain fog a little bit. I don't know if that's my age or whatnot.
You need a little bit of clarity, a little bit of energy.
Yep.
Right?
Is there of an IV that you would recommend for that? Thank you.
We call this the brainstorm.
The brainstorm.
The brainstorm.
Come visit We the People Health and Wellness Center.
Where medical freedom exists.
Welcome to Cam in the Moments here on Coastal Conservative News. My name is Camden, and here are your week's biggest moments coming up. All right, guys, welcome back to the segment here on Coastal Conservative News. We got a lot to talk about today, as usual. And I'm sure you've seen the national headlines, the national news about ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, what's going on in Minnesota, and basically the big outrage there, the protests, the riots, because of what happened with Renee Good and also the Alex, the guy that got shot by an officer. We'll get to my opinion on that in a second. But before we do, I got to discuss Florida. What's going on here because of that? Because all across the state, there are protests that are going on from Sarasota to Jacksonville to Miami to Tampa the following weeks, all across the state, all because of this incident and these incidents in Minnesota. But what's going on in Florida to make people protest? Well, they're that enraged about that there that they're going to do it here. And I believe a lot of these people don't know why they're there. A lot of these people don't know why they're going out to the protests. And we saw that in Sarasota a few weeks ago with the school board meeting, because Bridget Ziegler, the school board chair of Sarasota County School Board, had to bring a resolution to the meeting in response to Tom Edwards, another school board member who basically said, talking as a representative of the school board, that he doesn't trust ICE and that we shouldn't trust ICE. And so Bridget Ziegler brought a resolution to the meeting saying that we will, as a school board, fully cooperate with local, federal law enforcement, including ICE. And this sparked outrage like I've never seen. It's crazy. A bunch of people just were so mad at this. And the principal of multiple schools, but one including Riverview High School, encouraged students to go in a walkout and leave their classrooms to go protest ICE because it's so bad, so evil. And we were on the ground at this school board meeting, and I had to ask the protesters why they were there. One of them had a sign that said all ICE agents are villains. And I was like, these people are protecting us from illegal immigrants who have killed people like Laken Riley and others that have been unfortunately tragically killed for someone who wasn't supposed to be in the country in the first place. And so I had to ask them why they were there. Listen to what their response was.
I say that they're villains because we don't need them. We don't need them in the country.
We don't need ICE in the country at all?
I don't think so.
Immigration enforcement officers that arrest sexual predators and offenders and people that kill Americans, that killed Laken Riley and other illegal immigrants. Why do we not need ICE at all?
Don't you send police?
That's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It's for the illegal immigrants that
Killing somebody, you call the police.
they are officers.
They're not.
Yes, they are. They're federal officers. They are.
Not all ICE is trained. Not all. They won't identify themselves. They've been plucking them from former J6 people. These are not the rape people. Proud Boys, 3%ers who are looking for a little power trip.
Yeah, so basically they don't really know why they're there. They're just filled with rage, and they start asking me where I'm from and what I'm doing and who I am. And I just was like, okay, why do you need to know my whole life story just for me to ask you about your sign? But putting that aside, that was going on at the school board meeting. But a lot of this support there for the people that wanted to abolish ICE and all this stuff was actually manufactured, because allegedly the Sea Alliance was buying hotels for minors to attend things like this. And the Party for Socialism and Liberation allegedly was busing people in to Sarasota from Tampa to manufacture support at this meeting. So don't believe everything you see, because a lot of things can be twisted like this is. And so that was allegedly going on, and I was inside the room. We had our very own, our anchor here on Coastal Conservative News, Michelle Posey, speak up, and the people in there were disgusting towards her. I want you to watch this clip just so you know the character of these people and what's going on at these ICE protests. Watch as Michelle spoke what they said to her.
Michelle Posey, if nobody wants to be here, wouldn't have to be here if Tom Edwards didn't speak out the side of his mouth about something that's not even happening in our school district. So that's why we have a resolution in the first place. Tom Edwards this is not about feelings. This is not about responsibility. This is all about responsibility.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask the officers to help me out because I can't see and I'm not, we have again, 150. So if there are any of you that cannot control yourself and have outbursts because you don't disagree, you don't agree with the speaker, because so far you guys have done well, but just because you don't agree with the speaker, bless your heart, my friend. Okay, so moving on, again, it's the final warning. We're going to 1 minute after this. I'll make a motion that, and I'm sure many of you have prepared speeches. I'm trying to be respectful, but since if you can't demonstrate your respect, then we have to alter the rules. So,
yeah. That's what we're up against. All for standing up for law enforcement to keep Florida safe. I mean, we've been one of the safest states in the nation for the last 8 years because we've had such an amazing Governor DeSantis, who has really said law and order is going to be law and order, and we're going to enforce it to the fullest extent of the law. And he actually was speaking at a press conference just a few days ago about school choice during School Choice Week, and the media asked him a question about his thoughts, his opinion on what's going on in Minnesota and his response here in Florida. Take a look at this clip.
January of 2025, a few weeks before Donald Trump took office, I called a special session of the Florida legislature. Why? Because I said the American people want immigration solved. They want the border stopped, but then they also realize you can't have 10 million people come in under Biden and just stay, that you have to have enforcement and removal operations. But I also understood that there are issues with doing that effectively. The main thing was making sure that all state and local law enforcement agencies had a duty to assist DHS with interior enforcement. I don't want a Minneapolis mayor situation in Florida. Well, if you did have a situation where they were trying to, well, one, if they were even non-cooperative, refusing to cooperate, but if they try to sabotage especially, we have the ability to remove them from office. Well, if every state did that, you would not have some of the problems that we're seeing, around the country. That's just a fact. You have governor, mayor in some of these states, Minnesota and others, where, one, they refuse to cooperate, but then you have kind of the next thing where they're really whipping up. And look, you can protest against this all you want, but that's different from impeding their ability to operate, from trying to sabotage the proper functions of federal law enforcement.
Yeah, there's your statement from your governor here in the free state of Florida. And we call it the free state of Florida because of DeSantis, because of his governorship has been so amazing. And he is spot on here with his point about how the people in charge are to blame. Governor Tim Walz and the mayor there, they are not enforcing the law. They are not cooperating with ICE. They're not giving local law enforcement, local police the opportunity to cooperate to keep it safe there. They're doing the opposite, actually. Tim Walz was outside with a microphone encouraging people to mess with ICE, get in their faces, and whatever he's saying, to cause trouble. And he says it's good trouble. Is it good trouble, Tim Walz, that an American citizen was killed? Now, listen, I'm going to get into my opinion about it right now because we're seeing too much media with their own opinions on this that are just so false. And let me be very clear. If you resist arrest from a law enforcement official and have a gun on you, and as you're resisting arrest, go to pull the gun out, you're going to get shot. I mean, it's as simple as that. And it's tragic. As a Christian, I'm sad
for the family of Alex. I'm sad for that family because I do care about them. And he was a human life. I value human life, but actions have consequences. And when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And so any situation, imagine, put yourself in the situation of an officer. If you are, even if, take it out of ICE, think of any police officer. If you are getting pulled over and you get arrested and you resist arrest and you reach for something in your pocket, what do you think is going to happen? That's my honest take. What do you think is going to happen? And also, this whole situation can be completely avoided if illegal immigrants, well, first of all, if the border wasn't open for 4 years under Joe Biden, we would never have to have ICE agents go in and take them out of the state, of the country. But also, there is a program from the Department of Homeland Security where you can get an app, you can self-deport, they will give you a free flight home, $2,600, and the chance to come back to the country legally. But the Democrats don't want that. They don't want peace. Tim Walz does not want peace. You know why? Because the midterms are coming up. And they needed a martyr because of all the fraud that was being found in Minnesota. It hurt the Democrat Party so much. All that Somalian fraud with the daycare and whatever in the school, the Leering Center, that hurt the Democrat Party's image so much that they had to get a martyr. And they had to do that by encouraging people to stand up and resist ICE. And as Tim Walz said, cause some good trouble. And that's my take. I do think this was completely avoidable. And I thank the officers. I thank them so much for the job they're doing. ICE and local law enforcement, everybody, because it's a hard job when so many people are protesting, rioting, getting in your face and pushing you around. It's a hard job to keep doing what's right. And I believe God knows what's right, and justice will be given in the end. And the officers that are just doing their job are just trying to do their job. And if you try to mess with them, you stop them from doing their job, something might happen. And I hate it. I hate that it happened. I hate that there was like a man killed and Renee Good killed. Both these situations could be avoided by stopping yourself from impeding on the job of a federal officer. It's that simple. You have to remember that these people also have families. These ICE officers also have families. And we want peace, but it's up to you. It's your decision to be peaceful or not. And that's what it comes down to. So if you see any of these protests in Florida, feel free to message me. Follow me on Instagram at CamdenTreyB. Let me know what you think. Also, guys, before we go, I have to remind you of my book, Fearless Masculinity. Order it today because we need men to stand up strong and courageous for their families. And this thing that the Democrats, the left, has called toxic for too long, masculinity, we need to stand up for that because those are going to be the leaders, the men who lead their families to safety, prosperity, and basically all the things that we want for this great nation. It starts with the family unit. So if you're interested, if you're a man, if you have a man in your life that you love, Valentine's Day is coming up, get them Fearless Masculinity. CamdenBettinghouse.com. Go to that or just Google Fearless Masculinity. I'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Camden, for shining a light on how Floridians are impacted by geopolitics.
All right, now as we close out tonight, we shift from the noise of the moment and what grounds us beyond headlines and politics.
That's right. After the break, Kevin Gamble joins us with Faith in Focus. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss it.
They've censored the truth, manipulated the narrative, and told you to sit down and shut up.
But not here. Not on our mic.
Open Mic with Ali and Michelle is the podcast where free speech lives, patriotism thrives, and the truth doesn't whisper, it roars.
That's right. We break down the stories the media buries, the policies that threaten your freedom, and the culture chaos Gen Z is waking up to literally every day.
From whistleblower exposés and global conflicts to the spiritual war on masculinity, we don't just talk about it, we say what they won't.
That's right. If you're tired of soft takes, scripted spin, and really plastic politics, it's time to tune in and turn up.
Because this mic is always open.
Welcome back to Faith in Focus. Today we're diving into a profound apologetic tool, the transcendental argument for the existence of God. We'll explore how this argument shows that God isn't just a nice idea, he's the absolute precondition for making sense of anything at all. We'll tie it into the Logos in John 1:1, critique secular worldviews, and see how God grounds logic, morality, nature's uniformity, and even our ability to reason. Stick around, this could change how you see the world. Let's start with the basics. What is the transcendental argument, or TAG for short? It's not your typical proof like showing evidence for a historical event. Instead, it's a presuppositional approach pioneered by thinkers like Cornelius Van Til and Greg Bahnsen. The core idea is this: for the world to be intelligible, meaning for us to make sense of logic, science, ethics, or even debate, certain preconditions must be in place. And those preconditions only make sense if the triune God of the Bible exists. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to play a game without rules. It's pretty chaotic, right? Or building a house on sand. It crumbles. The tag says that without God, our entire framework for understanding reality collapses. God isn't something we prove with logic. He's the foundation for logic itself. This reflects God's nature profoundly. As this eternal, unchanging, all-knowing creator, God embodies perfect rationality and order. He's not arbitrary or chaotic. He's the source of coherence in the universe. This brings us straight to the Bible. In John 1:1, we read, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." That word is the Greek logos, which means more than just speech. It's reason, logic, the organizing principle of the cosmos. John is telling us that Jesus Christ is the divine logos, the eternal mind through whom all things were created and hold together. As Colossians 1:17 puts it, in him all things hold together. So the tag isn't some philosophical invention, it's biblical. God's nature as the logos means that intelligibility, our ability to think, argue, and discover, is a reflection of his rational relational being. Without the logos, there's no logic. Now contrast this with secularism or atheism. These worldviews claim to stand on their own, but the tag exposes their fatal flaw. They have no foundation for the very preconditions of intelligibility. Take an atheist who says, "I don't believe in God, I rely on reason and science." But where does reason come from in a godless universe? If everything is just matter in motion, random atoms bouncing around from a Big Bang, why should we trust that our brains produce reliable thoughts? Charles Darwin himself worried about this, calling it the horrid doubt, that our convictions might be no more trustworthy than a monkey's mind. Atheism actually borrows from theism without admitting it. They use logic to argue against God, but logic assumes universal immaterial laws that don't change. In a purely materialistic world, laws of logic are just brain fizz, subjective and evolving. Why not just say 2 + 2 = 5 if it helps our survival? But atheists act as if logic is absolute, borrowing from the Christian worldview where God, as the unchanging logos, grounds it. Let's break this down a little further. First, the laws of logic, like the law of non-contradiction. Something can't be A and not A at the same time. These aren't physical, they're abstract and universal. In atheism, they're either inventions of human minds, making them subjective, or brute facts like unexplained mysteries. But God, as the rational creator, is the foundation. His mind is the source of logic, reflecting his consistent nature. As Isaiah 1:18 says, "Come now, let's reason together, says the Lord." Second, moral absolutes. Atheists might say morality comes from evolution or society, but that makes it relative. Why is murder wrong universally? If it's just what helps the herd survive, then in some contexts it might not be. But we know deep down it's absolutely wrong. The tag points out that without a transcendent moral lawgiver, God who is holy and just, morality crumbles into preferences. We borrow God's moral framework when we appeal to justice or human rights. Third, uniformity in nature. The assumption that the future will resemble the past, like gravity working tomorrow as it does today. Science depends on this. In atheism, it's just an assumption. Maybe the universe is chaotic underneath. But God, as the faithful sustainer, ensures uniformity. His providence reflects his unchanging character. Finally, human reasoning itself. We're made in God's image, with minds that can grasp truth. In atheism, reasoning is an accident of evolution, untrustworthy for big questions. But the tag shows that only in theism does reasoning make sense. We're designed to think God's thoughts after Him. So at the end of the day, secular worldviews are like someone denying gravity while standing on solid ground. They borrow the preconditions of intelligibility from theism to even make their case against it. It's self-defeating. The tag invites us to start with God, not prove Him from neutral ground, because there's no neutral ground without Him. As we wrap up, remember, this isn't about winning arguments. It's about glorifying the God who makes sense of it all. If you're wrestling with doubt or sharing your faith, lean on the transcendental argument. Dive into John 1 and seek the Logos at work. Thanks for joining Faith in Focus. If this resonated, share it with a friend. God bless you all.
Thank you, Kevin, for taking us into a deeper dive of logic and the transcendent nature of God. You'll also only hear that here.
Remember, if there's a story happening in your county, your school board, your city council, or your neighborhood, we want to hear from you. Yes. Visit us at coastalconservativenews.com or call our tip line 941-487-7441 to share your tips and stories.
Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay Florida strong, guys.
I'm Allie Leger.
And I'm Michelle Posey, and this is Coastal Conservative News.
Good night, and God bless the free state of Florida.